Good morning, folks. Those of you who are hanging out, if I could just ask you guys to do me a huge favor, and that is put on your cameras, because that's part of the requirement. We need to see that you're interacting.
What time it's here over there?
Come on in, Mark.
Thank you.
Good to meet you in person, sir.
Yeah, likewise. How are you?
I'm very well. Good. Get up a chair, make yourself comfortable.
All right.
Actually, you can find your name on here. Get you all signed in and ready to go. All right. Mary, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Well, look, it's bright and sunny where you're at. What's going on?
Oh, I'm in my sunroom. That's why.
Listen, it's very weird because it's kind of dark down here, so it's like I'm seeing that. It's a little culture shock. All right,
Yeah, the sun's coming up from behind me.
that's so nice. Keep that camera on because you're brightening my day right now.
Okay.
Jessica, Lena, Paula, love for you guys to be camera on and ready to go. We'll be getting started probably in about 5 minutes or so. I might give an extra 5 just for people to kind of come on in. So
That's all we got.
no, there's going to be a lot on there. You want to see what this looks like? Take a look at that roster. A lot of people on that thing. Oh my gosh, Jessica, how are you? Rachel, so good to see you, my dear. How you doing? Julie.
They took the easy way out. Ah,
Okay, where's the rest of them? Don't be shy, folks. It's all family here.
for a long time. How are you? Mhm.
Well, thank you.
That's some of the files that I sent to you guys.
All right,
I'll
thank you.
give you these to have in person. If you want. You can follow along. Right?
At the head of the table.
You can sit at the head of the table, I guess. You earned it, my friend. There you go.
See, you got the Cadillac.
Quite heavy.
Paula, welcome. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. It took me a long time to figure how to get the TV on.
Hey, we got you. We got you on. You're present. That's great. All right. Just turning my phone down so we don't have any interruptions. Everybody got your coffee or other beverage of choice? Let's not get crazy now because it's not the weekend. Okay. Just
Pretty
saying.
close.
Coffee. They got coffee.
They might. I think they probably made some up. You got time to grab one,
Okay.
like a minute.
A minute.
Like on us. Come on now. We probably start about 8:05 because
Okay.
this is a tough time for folks, but this is the only time we can squeeze this training into.
You doing? Okay.
So you preset this. What's this on? She sent me an email that said that's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, let's see what we got for a roster here.
Did you say
I sent who?
Kelly Gunn?
I sent everybody one, but send it again. Text you or send it again. All right. If you want to return, just let her know to check her email, so it should be coming through now as an invite. Right in here, my dear. Oh, good, either way, right there. And we got more people. Cool. We got people in person. We got people online. It's gonna be fun. Like it. Listen, lady, you want to swap places? All right then. Coffee out there. Okay, so I'm gonna petition the powers that be that I can have refreshments up in here. Okay? All right, I'll do that. I'll take that into consideration, okay? Thank you. Thank you.
One's here, right?
Listen, Jen,
This, right?
Jen, I will take care of you.
Yes.
It's not a reflection of how much I appreciate you being here. Promise you.
Okay, I'm not saying we need a whole spread, but just something.
You want some of my coffee? I didn't backwash it.
No, I.
Okay.
no.
Hi, sweetheart.
Good morning, ladies. Good morning. Okay.
You know which one I'm talking
I need a hot time. Like I need a
You make it the damn. Seriously.
started, folks. I want to honor your time. And as was eloquently pointed out to me, at this time of the morning,
Yes.
we're going to get things going. I want to welcome you guys to your annual Alzheimer's dementia training. My name is Tim Bello. You guys know who I am for the most part. Those of you who are volunteers, I am an assistant instructor for professional development here at South Coast Health at Home. We do this annually just to kind of refresh. This is going to be an aerial view of Alzheimer's and a lot of the things that you've already learned in the larger training. This is one segment of what the requirement is yearly if you're going to be working with folks in the long-term care setting. So we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to get refreshed and kind of up to speed on a lot of things that are going on in the field, which I've tried to do that this time. I've kind of tried to evolve with some of the research that's coming out. I did provide you guys with an enormous amount of information on the invite, and I apologize for that. I think I'm going to put it in a zip file the next time. But I wanted to make sure, because we have such a mixture of disciplines here. I have CNAs, we've got nursing, and we also have volunteers who are not clinically engaged, right? So we want to make sure that this is going to be something that everybody can kind of consume and digest and not, get a bellyache from. So what I did was I did put in all of the mandatory information that you'd need for this training annually, including the statute, what we have from Massachusetts that requires us to do the training. That was made available. And I also made available the outline for this, and also this is the 2025 NIH Alzheimer's disease and related dementias progress report. This is really cool, okay? Even for the layperson, if you go through this, you get a really great picture of where research is coming in the field of Alzheimer's research and treatment. And there's some pretty amazing things that are going on, right? I would encourage you to take a leaf through this, especially if this is more than a professional opportunity to learn. A lot of us, and I'm going to ask this question, if you can give me a show of hands, how many of you are actually dealing with this on a personal level?
I've dealt with it.
So family,
Mhm.
right? People who are close to us, not just people that we're working with. Come on in, ladies. Make sure you sign in. I'm going to give you credit for the day. So this is a great resource, and I'm referencing this a little bit today simply because there is a lot going on. And from the nursing standpoint, there's a lot of medications that are being utilized to treat at different levels Alzheimer's, the progression of it. And I've got a few of them here that I'm just gonna touch on, but there's basically gene therapies that are actually being developed that are geared at interrupting that amyloid plaque buildup, that piece of the disease. And we're going to talk a lot more about that in a few minutes. There's also a lot of mention about lifestyle changes. There's also testing that's going on now that's a lot more accurate to determine years before the actual onset of symptoms that this disease is happening to the individual. So, hey, welcome. Did you sign in? So there's a lot of really cool information, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the thickness of this because, as I said, I've got a mixed group of folks and we want to get to it. So a couple of housekeeping tips. Number one, if you're online, I'd like you to make sure that you have your camera on. There's an interactive component to this, and we are recording this now. So I would like to be able to see your lovely faces this morning, even if you still have the sleepy bedhead thing going on. It's okay. Just kind of get it going like this. You'll be good. I'd also like to make sure that you are on mute. So the reason being, we had Ziggy join us last time, and Ziggy was one of our CNAs. I think it was Kelly Briggs. It was Kelly's dog, and Ziggy didn't want to shut up. So me being the ADD freak that I am, I will be distracted a lot. So please just make sure that if you're on mute, I want you to talk, I want you to ask questions, but let's make sure we're on mute, okay? Can everybody hear me right now, by the way, that's online? Can you see me? Everybody wave so they can see you. Okay, see, now this is bonding. This is what we're doing right now, okay? All right, so I also provided for you guys in the attachments our the activities booklet. This is going out to our patients' families. When we go into a home and the patient has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia or any of the dementias, we're going into the home with this to help the caregiver better deal with what's going on and support the patient. That's important. This is a really cool little guide. There's a lot of activities in here that can kind of help to meet the patient where they're at. And this is going to be the focus of what our discussion is today. We're going to be talking about something called habilitation therapy. And habilitation therapy, does anybody know what that means? Anybody in here or anybody online? Okay, I'll tell you. Habilitation therapy is an approach to treating Alzheimer's in the patient that meets them where they are. It's not going to cure them. It's not going to make things all of a sudden, roses and puffy clouds. It's not going to happen. But what's going to happen is it's going to give support at the level of function that that patient is at right now. So their quality of life is going to improve as a result of this type of therapy. And there's a lot of different facets, and they're all patient-centered and patient-focused. And they're tools that a lot of our patient families don't know how to use, and they don't know that they're even available. Here's the thing. Is Alzheimer's an emotional disease or not? Yes or no? Yes, it is. Is it difficult to be objective when we are highly emotional and engaged?
Yeah.
Right? So that's the whole subjective, objective piece of our caregiving. When we come into a situation, we can have empathy for someone that's in this situation and for the family, but we don't get sucked into that. They are too close sometimes, and sometimes that for that hour that we go in, or however long we go in to be around that patient, that's a time when they can actually get a breather, right? And we can kind of lower that emotional level a little bit and give them an opportunity to kind of recover and to be able to deal with what they're dealing with. And we don't do it all at once. We don't fire hose information at people, but we develop relationships with our folks. Yeah. Patients, families, that's important to us. No. Okay. So we want to make sure we have good tools on board that we can hand off to them and help educate them and teach them each time we're going in and giving them that respite. We're giving them some alternatives. All right. There's some things in here like, and this is obviously according to the level of function that that patient is at, because we have different stages of Alzheimer's. We're going to talk about those as well. But if a patient is at a higher level of functioning, a lot of these engagement activities are going to help them kind of deal with some of the anxiety and the stress that's surrounding them right now because of what's going on, what's happening to them. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Sweet. All right, moving on. So I want to talk a little bit about conflict of interest statement. I have to say this: the planners and presenters have no known actual or perceived conflicts of interest to report. I do not have a special product that I'm going to sell as a result of this training. We are not going to take anything that's not factual and is not required and pass it off to you guys. Does that make sense? Okay. So some of our objectives are going to be, we're going to hopefully understand dementia and how it progresses, because there's a lot of different pieces to dementia. It is really kind of a symptom, and it's an umbrella. Underneath that umbrella comes a lot of different things. Okay, and we're going to talk about that as well. Learning communication skills to enhance verbal and nonverbal interactions. So most of the communication that we have, we get through here, right? Like our eyes are that first point of communication. We see what's going on with someone, or we see maybe the not so nice hand gestures they give us on the highway. Okay. Or we might give some even. That's a visual communication. But because a lot of these pieces have gaps in the patient who has Alzheimer's, we wind up having to be kind of accenting the ones that they can deal with. So touch, voice, pitch, a lot of those things we're going to be kind of addressing from the caregiver's point of view, and also from the patient's point of view as to what they can actually interpret. So language, body language, verbal, nonverbal communication, that's huge. We're going to talk about understanding the causes of difficult behaviors. Why do people act out? Why do people act out? It could be something as simple as being constipated, right? Have you ever been constipated? Not felt so fresh? Right? Are you in the mood for anybody's nonsense or perceived nonsense? No. So those are simple things, but we, from the caregiving side, we can kind of bring our information and our assessments together to kind of figure those things out and be able to help deal with them. A lot of times the caregiver in that situation is so involved that they take it personal. And when it's personal, they lose all objectivity. There's no way for them to be able to help the patient get through the situation or to see that maybe this is an underlying cause, right? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, moving on. Learn person-centered approach to dementia care. We are not treating a disease, we are treating people. Okay? We're treating people. And patient-centered simply means we understand all those things are important to know about the disease, but at the end of the day, we're there for that patient. Is that patient there for us? No. Okay. Recognizing, all right, learning about diet and nutrition needs. I'm sorry, recognizing and responding to caregiver stress. So this is kind of a silly question to ask, but how much caregiver stress do we see when we go into the home? A lot, right? How do we have caregiver stress? Are we caregivers? Okay, so sometimes we forget that. We forget that we are caregivers too, and we're human beings. If we've had a bad day before we go in, we're taking that baggage from that bad day, and now they've got baggage, and now we got a lot of baggage, right? So understanding kind of that concept, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to learn about diet and nutrition needs. I'm not going to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on that because we're going to kind of, like I said, I want to breeze through, and I want to get to this place in this discussion where we actually start talking about practical applications. Like, what can we do to kind of help kind of put some of this knowledge into action? Okay, and this is not just for the caregivers, the clinicians, but also for the volunteers too. And then I'm going to try and leave a little bit of time for us to be able to kind of interact, and very discussion based. I would love for you guys, if you have questions, please sing out, ask your questions, okay, or your comments. But we want to keep kind of move along. We're going to talk about therapeutic activities and socialization. Hello. This is where this comes in. We're also going to talk about preventing, recognizing, and responding to abuse and neglect. How many of us here are mandated reporters? Right, right. Is it personal?
No.
No, it's not personal. So what I think sometimes happens is we see something going on and we form opinions, don't we? And we get kind of a little too going on, and we're like, but it may not be what we think. What we have as a responsibility is to actually bring that information to the powers that be, start the reporting process so that we can get to the bottom of this, so that we're not assuming anything. It's just the facts. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, cool. So let's talk about dementia. So dementia is the symptom. It is what happens to an individual when they suffer from some of these other conditions, okay? I'm going to talk about these other conditions. So there's really about 4 major types of impairment that we see under this umbrella of dementia. The first one is the one that it's the name of this training, right? Okay, it's Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's accounts for about 50 to 75% of all the cases of dementia. Okay, vascular dementia is about 20 to 30%. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about these as we move through. Lewy body. What is Lewy body related to? What does the patient have? Parkinson's disease. That's correct. Excellent. And then frontotemporal dementia accounts for about 10 to 15% of the types of dementia that are out there, right? So we talk about where these fit in. So we look at the non-reversible dementias. Those are the ones that you are not going to cure. You may be able to delay by a couple of months the onset or the worsening of symptoms, But you are not going to stop this train. This train is going to keep on rolling until its inevitable conclusion. Okay, so those are non-reversibles. 65% of the dementias that we see in the field are those. And age is the greatest predictor. And when you think about it, 47% of the population, okay, 47% of the people over the age of 85 are going to have at least a variation of or one of these types of irreversible dementias. Why is that? Okay, I'll tell you. The reason why we see it in the older population is as we get older, our brain begins to degrade with age. The blood vessels are not as young as they were when we were 5 or 6 years old. All right, they become fragile. The brain actually begins to shrink a little bit, and that's not from disuse. It's just the natural aging process, right? But now if you put on top of whatever is happening that's natural, and you now superimpose this condition, now you have an irreversible form of dementia, such as Alzheimer's. And we're going to see the progression of that disease in the older adult. So 47% would represent how many people we've actually got in the classroom right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 in here. Approximately 4 to 5 of you out of this group of 10 over the age of 85 would develop Alzheimer's. Now, I'm not saying you will, but that's what the averages state, okay? And that's sobering, isn't it? When you start thinking about it, those ratios, it's like, not me, not me. I don't want that to happen, right? But it's that those are the statistics. That's what's borne out. So young onset's 5% of the cases. That's ages 30 to 60. That's a more rare variant, but it does happen. And we've even seen some very rare instances of this in children, a version of Alzheimer's disease or a type of Alzheimer's that's very similar to the one that affects adults. Tragic, any way you look at it. Late onset, 95% of the cases. And 95% of the cases that we see of irreversible dementias, non-reversible dementias, are in the over 65 age group. Okay, is that pretty much our experience? Yeah, for the most part. We're reading the diagnoses on our patients. We see, yeah, this patient is probably over the age of 65, and they've acquired this diagnosis because a lot of their other health indicators have been making them very sick. And that's the other thing too. There's a lot of other things that contribute to worsening these symptoms. You got patients who are suffering from a lot of different disease conditions, lifestyle-related disease conditions. Amazing information in here about diet and lifestyle. Untreated diabetes, untreated hypertension, different types of diet changes can actually help to alleviate some of those potential onsets of these diseases, even when the gene is present. And I love the research in there. So please get a chance, just leaf through it. I know it's a lot of thick language, but if it's personal, you're probably going to dive deep into it. Yeah. Okay. We go on to the reversible types of dementia. There's 25% of those. They're treatable. That means that something is going on that we now have a treatment for. We either have a medication or we have a treatment protocol or something that's going to help that patient get through this rough patch and get back to a state of cognition. They're going to be back to what they used to be. Okay? And we see this happen with, say, somebody who has thyroid disease. Okay? Thyroid, when the thyroid's off, it's off. And it controls a whole lot of things from metabolism. I mean, there's so many different functions. When it's off and it's not working properly, you get a lot of the symptoms. Memory loss, short-term memory loss, fatigue, depression, brain fog, all of those things. So we get the thyroid back to functioning, and those symptoms start to fade back into the shadows. And the person now starts to feel more balanced, right? That's just one of them. That's a metabolic disorder. Okay. What about when your blood sugar dips too low? What happens when we see hypoglycemia or we experience hypoglycemia? We get brain fog, right? Thank you, Ines. We got brain fog. We get to this point where nothing works, right? We might not even recognize people around us. Well, when we correct that, it's pretty quick. Everything comes back into focus. We start to gather ourselves. The anxiety starts to fade away because we start feeling a little bit more normal. Our heart rate goes back down. Everything feels better, right? Again, a metabolic disorder. Depression is another one. 10% of the cases of reversible dementia are profound depression. Depression will isolate. Depression will cause us to withdraw from social situations. Depression will make our memories bad. Okay. Now you layer anxiety on top of that, which they're connected. Now you by yourself, you don't have input, you lose track of people, you lose track of faces. You're now in this isolated place and you feel like you're losing your mind. But now we get you into a treatment protocol that kind of balances the brain chemistry out a little bit with the medicine. This medication, that's what it's geared at. It basically balances brain chemistry, serotonin, dopamine levels, right? So you start to feel a little bit more alive. You start coming out of your shell. You start interacting a little bit more. See, that's how the human brain works. We need stimulation. We need to be able to be around people. If we're not around people, you know, it's interesting. And we're talking about this, and I don't want to go on too many sidetracks because I'm just like, I'm ready to talk. But you think about those people who've been isolated for long periods of time from the time that they're children, and they lose the power to what? Speaking. They can't communicate because no one ever showed them. Well, guess what? If you isolate yourself long enough and you don't use those parts of your brain, they go dormant. They don't work the way that everybody else does because they need that stimulation. So I just wanted to bring that to light. So let's talk about static dementias. So the static dementias are about 10%, and that's alcoholic type dementias. If you've ever seen anyone who's suffered from any of the alcohol withdrawal symptoms or alcohol abuse, profound alcohol abuse, there's a lot of things that are going on with them that just don't fit the criteria of, you know, they may look great on the outside, but they've been drinking for a long time, and that's severely affected their cognitive abilities, right? You also have those who've had head injuries, and we hear a lot about it in sports. CTE. Does everybody know what CTE is? I said concussive traumatic encephalopathy last time, which I was totally off on that. It's chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which basically means you're taking one too many shots to the head. Tuatara Vailoa comes to mind. That kid had like probably 15 different episodes of head injuries over the last 3 years of his career. I'm afraid for those kids because you think they've been getting these concussive events since they were playing in the Pee-wees, right? All the way up through school. The brain can only take so much. And we're going to find out that the physiology of what's going on when you damage the brain is really kind of in that chain of events that happens to make Alzheimer's happen. So a lot of the same symptoms are being brought on because the same mechanism is being brought on by an outside source. You're getting your head whacked repeatedly. That the brain is very resilient, but it can only take so much. When you start destroying brain cells as a result of trauma, those brain cells release a substance and start a chain reaction of things happening. We're going to talk about that as well. And so we also talk about strokes, TIAs. Right? You ever have patients or family members who've had, you know, they've had TIAs, and for a brief period of time, they kind of go blank. That's just one possible affect, right? But they just, and they don't remember who they are or where they are. They get very confused. And then after they recover, everything starts to come back, right? So you do that enough times, and the TIA simply, for those who've never heard the term, it's a transient ischemic attack. That's when a little blood vessel in the brain is either blocked by a blood clot or it ruptures. The area that blood vessel fed no longer gets fed. The cells die. When the cells die, you don't have function, and the brain has to try and rewire and reroute. Does that make sense? Everybody cool with me so far? Okay. So we're moving on. Oh, and just a little sidebar on the non-reversibles that I didn't mention. The non-reversibles can be genetically passed on. Okay. Down syndrome kids have double gene. I want to say it's either the APOE2 or the APOE4. I'm not sure which it is. I think it's the APO2 or APOE2 gene, which predisposes them to developing Alzheimer's. So they have a duplicate. They have a duploid, which means they're almost certainly going to develop it. Hey, welcome.
My name is Dawn.
Hi, Dawn. Welcome,
to meet you.
welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Make sure you sign in. There you go. All right. All right. So we're going to talk about some of the common dementias, and we're going to take them apart a little bit more. Alzheimer's disease is the most common because we hear it the most frequently, and it is the most frequently misdiagnosed. Why is that? Or misunderstood, I should say, not misdiagnosed. Here's the thing. If you hear it enough times and you see some of the symptoms, you automatically divert to, it must be Alzheimer's. But we've just clearly stated that there's other causes, right? Well, we don't want to think about that because we're not doctors and nurses and we don't want to know about this stuff. So we just say, hey, yeah, they got Alzheimer's. But that's not the case. And that's part of why we do this education, is to help kind of bring that level of knowledge to a place where we start really not just stereotyping. Because each of these has a different approach that you're going to take in dealing with your patient. Each patient is unique, all right? Each patient may be at a different level of progression of the disease. We want to know and be accurate about what they got. But that's just the way we are. We'll say, oh, they got Alzheimer's disease because they're forgetting a few things, you know? So Alzheimer's disease is the most common. The next one is the vascular dementias, which is the multi-infarct and post-stroke. And here's where the lifestyle comes in. Diabetes weakens the small blood vessels, the smallest blood vessels in the body, because glucose circulates too long. When those get weakened, they're more prone to collapse or to rupture. There you go. High blood pressure, lifestyle related. You don't exercise, you don't eat right, your heart gets too much of a strain, your blood vessels are going to narrow over time, and that happens, that all comes together. We have strokes because either an embolism broke off somewhere and went to that place and caused damage, or we have a bleed. Does that make sense to everybody? Sweet. All right. Well, it's not sweet, but I get excited when I'm right. You know. So we got the mixed dementias, and they're more than one cause. So I want to be really clear with you guys on this. There can be more than just one cause. There's more than one reason why this patient is experiencing these symptoms. It can be layered in, and there's so many different possibilities. Okay, here's an example. You go in to see a patient, that patient's been isolated and lived by themselves for 15 years. You go in, you see it's a hoarder's paradise. Everything is everywhere. There's no semblance of order. They are completely dirty and hygiene is horrible and there's no food in the house. Okay. You walk in and you talk to this person and they have some deficits. They might have something else going on. How about our chemo patients, our oncology patients? What do they have to go through that could possibly lend to some of these conditions and some of these symptoms? Well, let's think about it. Chemo, radiation, that takes a toll on an individual, yeah? And they've got other chronic disease conditions that are being treated at the same time. So now they're constantly trying to compensate, right? I don't know about you, but if I'm fatigued and I'm depressed and I'm tired, I forget things. Shoot, sometimes I forget where I put my keys. In fact, every day I forget where I put my keys. That's starting to scare me a little bit. But when you start to think about what are the other causes? Am I too stressed out? Am I sleeping enough? We don't think about those things, right? The patient who's an oncology patient has to deal with the effects of chemo. They have to deal with the effects of knowing what their disease condition is and where they are in that whole continuum. They have to deal with all of the external forces that are going on. Plus, they have to try and keep their nutrition up because they're yakking all over the place because they can't hold anything down. Does that make sense to everybody? Mixed reasons for dementia are layered, and that's why it's so important to have definitive diagnoses, have the right kind of healthcare, the right kind of referrals to neurology, to gerontology, to your endocrinologist, to having all these doctors who we look at and we kind of get boggled at the fact that we've got so many people working on us. But there's a lot of different reasons, right? We have Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. That's a thiamine deficiency, vitamin B1. Nutritional deficit. If I'm not getting the right nutrition and I'm missing this vitamin, which is responsible for processing energy in the cells, guess what happens? I'm going to be a little off. Now, absorption issues could be a lot of things, right? Could be I'm not getting enough. What else could it be? Maybe I'm puking up everything I get. Maybe I've got Crohn's disease. Maybe I have IBS. Maybe I've got something else that's not allowing me to retain nutrition. Maybe my diet just stinks. Maybe I don't have any clue about nutrition at all, and McDonald's is my favorite place to go. I know I just hit people right here, didn't I? Sorry about that. Lots of causes. Let's talk about Lewy body. Who do we know who had Lewy body that's famous? I'll give you a hint. He died in 2014. Taking his own life because he couldn't take it anymore. Williams, thank you very much. Robin Williams. So he suffered from a form of Parkinson's. Well, Parkinson's disease and Lewy body go together, right? And this dementia is almost always found at some level, not in every Parkinson's patient, but it's always together if it's going to be found, right? So basically, this is a disease that, I want to simplify this as best I can. If you're using building blocks to build a house, a foundation, and you build that house with really wonky, misshapen pieces that don't fit, what happens to the rest of the house? Right? It's not structurally sound. Same thing's happening here. Those proteins that would normally go into repair, because proteins are produced by cells to repair, they're not making the correct copies of themselves, and they accumulate and they build up around the cells, and they do not allow the cell to function anymore. The cell dies, it releases something called glutamate. We're going to talk about that a little bit too. And then finally, it just doesn't work. Okay. Lewy body is a type of dementia that works on that principle. Okay. We also have frontotemporal dementia. Who else do we know? I'll give you a hint. Die Hard. Bruce Willis, highly publicized because his family is basically really open about sharing what they've been going through with him through this disease. He's now in a long-term care facility. His disease progression has gotten to the point where they can no longer care for him at home. And it started out probably with memory loss. And then it progressed to aphasia. And we're going to talk about those conditions too. But frontotemporal, the location is important. This is where we reason. This is where we process information. This is where we think. This is where we deduce. This is where we do everything. Frontotemporal parts are where we are controlling our language and a lot of our other cognitive functions, and they're working together. That part of the brain is being impaired and it's being affected. So if you have frontotemporal dementia, guess what gets affected? My speech, my ability to understand language. those are really going to be indicators that something's going on. Okay. And then we have something called Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, which is otherwise known as BSE. What is BSE? Anybody know? I'll give you a coffee the next time you have to do this training. How's that sound? BSE is bovine spongiform encephalopathy. All right, that's a mouthful. Don't say it 6 times fast because your tongue will be irrevocably tied into a knot. Simply put, it's mad cow. And mad cow disease is actually a disease that's real similar in the production of proteins that don't fit, and they're damaged. And what happens is you ingest material from an infected host, you become infected. And the lifespan is about 6 months to a year once you've been diagnosed with this. It's amazing the damage that's done by this disease from eating the wrong hamburger. Yeah. So if you're going to Europe, I go vegetarian for real. But hey, listen, salads are great. Let's stay away from that, the cow or the deer or anything else that's like a herd animal. That's why it spreads so fast, is because they are herd animals. They're hanging out together in close spaces. Okay. That's something that's really tragic, because what happens is you take a look at a post-mortem of the brain and it's got little pock marks in it that look like a sponge. That's the damage that this disease does. And again, the same issue happens. You don't have cognition anymore. You lose parts of your function in your brain, and eventually you die fairly. So those are some of the things that can affect our cognition and the physiology of our brain. So we talk about Alzheimer's specifically. It's a slow progressive deterioration of the brain. Hallmarks are plaques and tangles. 2/3 of our brain is lost if we have Alzheimer's. By the time we're at the end of this cycle, 2/3 of our brain is lost. So we have a brain that weighs about 5 to 6 pounds when it's normal and healthy. By the time we're done, by the time this disease is done ravaging it, it's now 2 pounds. And you've lost all of the major function that made you who you were. The only thing that's usually left is the brainstem and other pieces that are still kind of functioning in the greater part of the brain. But those basic functions, and even those basic functions, become impaired. The brainstem controls breathing, respiration, heart rate, all of those basic functions. Once that's impaired, then patients pass. Most of our Alzheimer's patients, though, from my experience, they passed as the result of other things. Like their heart takes a licking but keeps on ticking, right? But they wind up passing because either they've aspirated and they have pneumonia, they become septic and they pass away, or it's a combination of things that affect them. Eventually they become so weakened that they can't survive. I know I'm making everybody happy this morning. I'm so sorry. So we look at this early, middle, and late stages of this disease. It progresses from 5 to 15 years. So this is the course that this disease takes. Okay, 6 to 15 years is probably from the time of diagnosis. Although symptoms can occur before that, and people just blow them off like it's normal aging. I'm at that age right now. I'm not gonna lie. I'm 59, and I forget things every now and again. And my brain doesn't work as robustly as it used to. But I also realize that could be because I'm not sleeping real great. So what's the plan? Become independently wealthy, don't have to work, and sleep. Right? Okay. So this is the normal neuron. The neurons are the functioning cells of the brain. They are communicators. So it's like having all of these little communication nodes in our brain that do so many different things. This is healthy ones. Those aren't healthy. The one on the left, you've got a cell body, you've got an axon, you've got dendrites. The dendrites have little chemical doorways that open and close that allow electrical signal to pass from one to the next. And that happens trillions of times throughout the day, throughout the lifetime, through trillions of cells. Okay, that's the way it's supposed to work. When a cell dies, this is what happens. Either it's an inside-out job. So Alzheimer's will attack from the inside and it will attack from the outside. We have something called plaques and tangles that form. Okay, and you know what's amazing to me is that the plaques and tangles that are forming, the body normally makes proteins that are supposed to heal and repair. But this disease takes that in another direction. And it's kind of like cancer. Cancer produces really imperfect cells that kind of take up all the resources in one space or another space in the body until they finally suck the life out of the person, right? Same principle here. What normally the body was doing that was beneficial has now become screwed up. And now it's making imperfect copies. So we talk about this cycle, and there's an amyloid cycle, all right? And basically what happens is when a cell dies, okay, these little plaques form on the outside of the cell. They don't allow the cell to communicate. They don't allow it to get nutrition. Therefore, the cell dies. And it's like us. If we're not connected to people, we eventually die, right? Well, our brains are the same way. Our cells need to connect. If they don't connect and they don't have function, they're not stimulated, they die. When that cell dies, it goes through a process called apoptosis. And basically the cell releases this substance called glutamate. It's a process that now allows for all these little fragments of proteins to start getting sticky and stick around the outside of the neurons. Okay, that's the plaques. That's the amyloid cycle. And when you've got enough of this happening in one area of the brain, the function stops. Now the brain can reroute a lot of times, and like with traumatic brain injury, especially with kids, you can see some recovery. The older we get, the less plasticity we have, and the damage becomes so severe and catastrophic we can't recover from that. Okay. Again, CTE. I'll bring that back up. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. You're damaging the cells. You're killing the cells in a certain area of the body by trauma, and a certain area of the brain. And this glutamate continues to be released. The more it's released, the more sticky the environment is around the cell, the more these little proteins get attached, the more they accumulate, the more cells die. It's a cycle. Do you see where I'm going with this? Okay, let's move on. So we talk about the tangles. Now the tangles are from the inside, and the tangles are actually made up of they're made up of proteins that again are designed to repair in the cell. They are not making new, better copies of themselves. As a matter of fact, they're becoming these strand-like formations that are now sucking the life out of the cell from the inside. Okay. When you take away the cells, you take away their ability to communicate. One of the ways they communicate is neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters that are produced by the brain cell, among other things, is acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the one that we see that really affects the Alzheimer's patient, because we see the amount of acetylcholine in the brain start to drop off significantly the more this disease progresses. So acetylcholine is like the espresso for the brain, okay? It's the alert, it gives you that alert, awake state. It's responsible for energy. Like, remember vitamin B1, the thiamine is responsible for energy? Well, acetylcholine is responsible for those signals exciting the neurons and making things happen. Well, when those levels begin to drop, guess what? I get tired. Okay. One of the things that I want us to really, really be aware of is the medication's impact on these disease conditions. And I did go over this because I was trying to go too fast, and I'm sorry. I apologize. With some of the disease conditions that we've already talked about that can contribute to dementia, all right, the Lewy body, for the nurses in the room, neuroleptic medication will kill your patient. That means risperidol, not a good thing for your patient. Haldol, don't give it to them. It's contraindicated. Okay, you guys have your mugs that you can go back and do references when you do your starts of care. I want you to be aware of where the patient is in their disease cycle, what their diagnosis is, and do your due diligence. Go back into mugs. And I know you guys do, but I have to go over this stuff because it's regulatory. So I'm trying to, I want to make sure that I'm giving everybody quality in what I'm delivering here. So medications, again, when we talk about acetylcholine, we have something called an anticholinergic. So guess what the anticholinergics are? One that's really common that we all have taken at some point in time, or we given to our kids because they were too itchy from poison ivy. Benadryl, diphenhydramine. That is an anticholinergic. That makes us tired, right? We take antihistamine, non-drowsy my butt. Okay. Well, that's decreasing the amounts of acetylcholine by blocking the uptake of that neurotransmitter, right? So in the Alzheimer's patient who has already lost 92% of this by the time that they've gotten to the end of their disease, you give Benadryl to them. How are they getting Benadryl? Tylenol PM. How many little old ladies, little Canadians you've got? Oh, my legs, I comprimidos, please. Right? Comprimidos, sorry. I'm not talking to a guy, I'm talking to a guy. See, I'm bad with Portuguese. I shouldn't even say it. I'm Portuguese, but I shouldn't even talk it, right? But that's we see that happen. I used to see that in long-term care all the time. You have these patients with a dementia diagnosis, and they're still taking Tylenol PM every night. And you wonder why she's not waking up. Why they're not interacting. They're going to sleep 22 out of the 24 hours a day at the end of this Alzheimer's cycle, right? So we're going to put some more on top of that? Let's be real, right? Okay. So I mentioned mugs. Mugs is a really great reference that you guys have, drug reference for all the nurses in the room. That's a way for you to be able to kind of, when you're doing your med reconciliation, you're taking a look and seeing, is there something we need to address? Is there a red flag? And that'll usually get caught somewhere along the care continuum, but every once in a while it slips through, right? Let's see. All right, let's move along. Burning daylight here. So the healthy brain. On the left, you have the healthy brain. On the right, you have an Alzheimer's brain. There's a little section of this brain at about the 5 o'clock position on this slide that is called the hippocampus. It looks like a walnut. It looks pretty healthy in the one on the left, yeah? Find it on the right. It's gone. You know why that's so important? Because that's where memories are formed. That's where our memories get their beginnings. And if you take away that ability to form memories, guess what? There's no connecting points. But then we talk about the therapies that we're talking about now. We're talking about habilitation therapy, right? Well, habilitation therapy is designed to teach the caregiver how to help access those places that have been lost, those places that have been disconnected. Because the brain is really kind of cool. Okay? You look at all the places that things are happening and function that's being controlled, right? Some of the things that we see happen with a patient who has Alzheimer's are that they lose their memory of amnesia. That hippocampus begins to deteriorate and is destroyed slowly over time, over 6 to 15 years. It begins to shrink. Pretty soon that patient can no longer form memories. Right? But remember, memories are not just, remember memories. That was just early in the morning, guys. Sorry. Memories are formed not just in that one place. They also have pieces of memory that you carry in other parts of your brain. So here's an example. You ever smelled something that just triggered a memory?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, right? Why did it trigger a memory? Because the action of smelling now was saved. That scent was saved somewhere else in the brain. And when you smelled that same smell again, that same odor, and some of them are not so nice, not gonna lie. We get olfactory fatigue when we work around it all the time. Can somebody represent? Okay, we do. And we kind of don't smell like everybody else smells. We get out of there and we come back in and it's like, oh, what was that all about? Why didn't I gag when I was, because you get used to it, right? But those memories stay in different places. And what happens is when we encounter that scent again, it accesses that piece of memory that's stored somewhere else. That's habilitation therapy. Patients forget how to feed themselves. They forget how to tie their shoes. They forget how to do all of the important things that we take for granted. So what do? We help to get that jump started a little bit, right? Maybe we do a little hand over hand to help them learn how to eat again, how to use a fork again. Maybe we give them a towel to start holding. Maybe we help them tie their shoes. Maybe we just assist them and give them a little bit of a jump start to access that part of the brain. I want you to do this exercise real quickly. And those of you who are online, please listen to this and like you guys to do it too. I want you to think about bread. I'm not going to use bacon because bacon is just so not good for you. So I'm going to think about bread. Bread's not good for you too if you eat too much, but let's be real. Think about the smell of bread. Can you name for me the place where you're thinking of right now, where you were, and what it smells like, and what kind of feelings it's raising in you?
Sunbeam Bakery.
Sunbeam, right?
Sunbeam Bakery, yeah.
Right, Lydia's on the avenue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sunbeam Bakery first thing in the morning.
All right.
7.
So you're driving down the road. You might feel cold because it's during the winter time, right? But you still get that smell, right? And then you think about all the stress you're going into work for. Yeah.
Oh, going to school.
Going to school. There you go. You see how easy that was? All I had to do was mention it and invite you to kind of explore it, and you did. There was a reason for that. Those memories are in different places, and that's what we're trying to kind of work with the Alzheimer's patient, because they've lost that. That's the amnesia that has come in and robbed them of that, but it hasn't robbed them of everything, because it doesn't happen in the same places for everybody. Some places are damaged more than others. Okay. Aphasia, not being able to understand the spoken word, not being able to speak. Language center is affected, remember? That's why body language is so important. If I come up to a patient and I come up to him like this and I'm like, hey, is that therapeutic? No. They're gonna scare yeah, and they're probably gonna square up with me and start flailing and punch me in the face. Do they have a right to do that? Yes, they do.
Yeah, because you just scared
If
them.
they've lost their ability for cognition and you're coming up to them like that, dude, I'm squaring up too. So body language has a lot to do with it, and it's visual. If you come up to them and smile and you say, hey, what did I just do?
Got down to his level then.
I got down to his level. I stopped being a threat. I made a connection. And I did it in his field of vision. Real simple tools that we forget and we take for granted. But these are the things that are going to be important for us to understand, because that's what they're interpreting. Apraxia. So apraxia is forgetting how to do those things we used to know how to do. Tie your shoes. Use a fork. Okay? Simple hygiene. I gotta wash my face. Well, I don't know how many times I've ever done ADLs because I was a CNA when I was 14 years. You do ADLs with the patient and they can't wash themselves, right? They just kind of sit there. Well, they will just sit there if you don't help them. So you part of the care plan is, okay, let's help them go through the ADLs together. Let's do some hand over hand. So you put the washcloth in their hand, you put it in their hand, and you guide their hand to wash their face. Well, if you do that enough, for sometimes that triggers that memory to continue the process. It takes intention, it takes consistency, and knowing what's going to work to help bring that memory back. Agnosia. Agnosia is what I just talked about with the sights and the smells and the sounds and things that trigger memory. All senses can be affected. And what happens when somebody messes with our senses? What is the reaction we have? reaction a lot of times is fear. If I don't know what's going on, if I can't identify the sound, if I don't know what this feeling is, and I can't process this feeling, and I've got all of this input coming at me all at once, do you think I might be a little bit anxious?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fight or flight. Or I come out swinging. Because that's the only way I can deal with my environment. I feel threatened, and that's primal. I go primal. Smell is affected. Remember, nerve transmission, right? So those parts of the brain that interpret the sight, sound, smells, feelings, taste, all of that are being affected. So smell is hugely affected, and it's incredibly closely connected with memory. Olfactory recognition is tied directly to memory, and we proved that, right? Sometimes you'll see this decreasing in people, and you'll see them putting huge amounts of seasoning or salt into their food, or sugar into their coffee. Like you want some coffee with your sugar, right? Pretty good cue that they're not tasting anymore, and some of this is degrading. This happens over time as we get older, but it becomes more pronounced with people who are suffering from these disorders. Vision, field of vision goes from out here. I can go like this, and I can, as my age progresses, and as my dementia progresses, my peripheral field of vision starts to narrow and starts to come to be about 12 inches. Remember a baby when they're first born? What's their field of vision? About 12 inches, right? Same. Take a little basketball. This is where my patient can perceive reality. This is where they can see. If I come up from behind them, I'm out of their field of vision. I've now increased their anxiety. That's why it's important to approach from the front, right? Don't come up with, and I know some people have had too much espresso in the morning and they're just like, listen, that's your personality, but your personality needs to be toned down a little bit. Take a Benadryl. Okay. So tile colors, you'll see a lot of times in memory units, they will have like checkerboard patterns on the floor, or they'll put like dark carpets across the entryway. You know why? Because the depth, the depth perception's gone. So they don't want to step in a hole. So they avoid that. It's a passive barrier, right? But it works because it really kind of plays to their ability to perceive their environment and to process that information, right? So if I see that coming at me, first of all, I'm thinking back, wow, that's a flashback. Too much going on when I was a kid. That should never have done it. Those fat cells just released all of that mess when I got rid of them. Or again, fight or flight. I get freaked. That person who's dear to me, maybe my daughter, my son, they're coming at me looking like Picasso. I'm not going to have that. I'm going to be upset. I'm going to get anxious. I'm going to freak out a little bit. Here's the same thing with vision and food. Again, we're getting into the role of the caregiver, right? Am I helping the caregiver understand that some of the things they're already doing are not helpful for the patient? Patient might say that they're not hungry. They might not eat when the food's put in front of them. Well, they can't see it. Contrast isn't happening. They are losing that ability to see contrast. So what do? You put mashed potatoes on a white plate? What the what, man? And then you do a little bit of over-the-hand therapy to help them get to the place where they can feed themselves again and access that memory. It's a combination. You see the different things, that strategies we're using, and that we don't think about them. Because when you're highly stressed and you're overworked and you're distraught, guess what? I don't think of those things. That's where we come in. We come into the home and we help to refocus on those important things. We give them some sense of security too, which is really incredible that we have, not only we have great clinicians that are going in, we have great CNAs, but we also have great volunteers that are going in to help give the families respite. And even that short period of time you are in there makes a world of difference for them when they're overwhelmed. More contrast, right?
Mhm.
Nice high contrast plate behind the food so that they can actually see it and recognize it. Touch, again, this can be dangerous, right? So I forgot what hot was. I put a pan on the stove. I see it boiling. I go over, I know I'm supposed to shut this off. I know I'm supposed to take this off, but I forget that when I put my hand on there, guess what? That's hot. I'm burning myself. Or here's a simple application. Running the water in the tub. How many scald burns? Now you layer on top of that, patients had diabetes for 25 years. They're neuropathic. Guess what? They can't feel it. They couldn't feel it anyway, but they can't feel it even more now because the disease is kind of taken away that ability. Do you see what I'm saying? These are things that we have to anticipate as we go through the process of caregiving. And here's the other thing too. When all the other senses fail, sight is still there, sound is still there. You know, if you're grabbing a patient to get them ready in the morning, getting them in the shower, you've seen how have to do in facilities, right? You're in a patient's home, you can take the time. You don't grab them, you go up underneath them, you help them transfer, you do what you got to do. But do you understand where this is just compounding the problem? Because you're rushing around trying to grab this person and get them moving here to there because they're not cooperating. Well, they're not cooperating because everything's slowed down for them. Right? Compassionate human touch is incredibly important. It brings safety, it brings security. So hearing is the last sense that's affected. And I don't know about you, but if I'm in a loud room, I get a little anxious. My heart rate goes up. I don't like it because it's hard for me to discern all the different input. And I'm cool, I'm okay with it. But if I've got an objective and I'm trying to find somebody specific by their voice, say I had a blindfold on and I was trying to identify my kids in a room. You know what? I could identify my kids in a room. Can any mom here or dad? Absolutely. Absolutely, right? Well, the acuity of your hearing starts to diminish as we get older. Now compound that with the effects of the disease on our ability to hear. So now the best way for people to hear in who are suffering from either Alzheimer's, dementia, or just plain old aging is lower tones, not high-pitched stuff, lower tones, slow, methodical, combined with touch. Those are ways to communicate that kind of help to connect the dots for the folks that we care for. So just a little tidbit, 50% of people over the age of 85 have hearing loss. So we have special diets. We already know about these special diets, and you see they go from regular down to blender. Right? Okay, that's where they go. And let me tell you what, it's not appetizing to us, but it's necessary for their nutrition. It's also necessary because they forgot how to swallow or they forgot how to chew. And now the consistencies of the food have to match their capabilities. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Considerations. So when we throw too much at people, like I'm doing right now, I'm not throwing too much at you guys, am I? Okay. You're all silent because I had them muted. Isn't that great? Perfect. Too many choices can overwhelm. Patient is already anxiety ridden, and we come out to them and we say, "Hey, good evening, how are you? How you doing?" I'm sorry, I called you good evening. We come up to them and say, "What would you like to wear today?" And you open the door to the closet, and they got all of these clothes sitting there, and you expect them to choose. Anybody ever seen that happen?
Yes.
Like, what? Stop. If you let a 3-year-old go and pick their clothes out, what happens?
Take everything out.
Hello. So now we go in and we make the choices limited, and we say, which one would you like? This one or this one? anxiety drops. You get the point across to them. They don't get frustrated. And you get them dressed and they're not running around naked. Win-win, right? Okay. Difference between sympathy and empathy. Let's go through this real quickly. I'm burning daylight here. I feel bad for you. My emotions may cloud my problem solving abilities. To be sympathetic, we've always thought is a really good thing, right? No, not as a caregiver, it's not. Not as in our position, it's not. You know why? It's like you ever see the Tasmanian devil? You guys remember that? Okay, remember the in the tornado, right? What's caught up in the tornado? He is, and the arms and legs are flying everywhere, but there's other things that are sucked into that, right? That's kind of what happens when we become sympathetic. The emotions we get sucked into, and we lose our objectivity. So we can still be empathetic and care about that patient and be compassionate with them, but we can step outside of the tornado. Right? We can step outside of that, and we can help better if we can get the whole picture. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. And it's hard because we form relationships with our patients, yeah? And we're caring individuals for the most part, although some of you have days. Not gonna lie. Yeah? Okay. So, communication, empathetic communication, 10% is communication by words. So you can blah, blah somebody to death, just like I'm doing right now. And I could be getting the point across. But if I'm using different methods to get the point across, I do this as an educator. We have different learning styles. Some people are hands-on, some people are didactic, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm giving a lecture. Some people are experiential. Okay, their learning styles are different. For this population, guess what? 10% of what they're going to get is aphasic. So they're going to say hi, and they mean bye. They're going to say dog, and they mean cake. So words aren't as important as pitch, tone, lower tones, better understood, and body language, 60%. How you approach an individual will speak volumes to them, even if they are at a really basic level of understanding. Dementia patients listen with their eyes as well as their ears, and you should listen with your eyes too. Don't always form opinions before you have a chance to assess. Don't let your opinions cloud the reality of what's going on. We have the benefit of being able to do that. Sometimes caregivers get sucked in and they don't. We give them that opportunity. Behaviors, we already know what the behaviors are, and I'm going to skip through this because I don't have much time left. The behaviors that we see happen to people who are suffering from Alzheimer's disease and dementia are directly related to their inability to process the situation. It's either too much or there's not enough information. You feel me? Mm-hmm. So now, Dawn actually lectured with this guy, Greg O'Brien, journalist, early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, and he chronicled his experience with the disease. And he talks about a time when his family had planned a trip to go lecture. He was going to go lecture in Switzerland. Gets to the airport. They had it meticulously planned out. They thought they had all the contingency plans in place. He gets off of the plane, and you know what it's like getting off of a plane in a busy airport, right? Mm-hmm. It's like your cattle. And they got you going down the chute. And it's like, right? So he hits the terminal. Lights, sound, everything else. All of a sudden, Greg goes primal. And he won before they could even catch him. And I guess he was a runner because he could run. And he bounced. By the time they found him, he had gotten on 3 buses and was in the middle of the town. Oh. About 25 miles to 30 miles away from the airport. Case in point, you can know all the things, you can plan all the best things, but the variable is the environment and how we handle the environment. If the environment If there's too much input, we get too stimulated, we can't navigate. If the patient is suffering from Alzheimer's disease. And if you get a chance to listen to that on Audible, that would be a great thing. I still haven't done that, but I'm gonna make a commitment today. I'm gonna download it. I'm actually gonna listen to it. I need to get that perspective too. It's a phenomenal book from what I understand. But it's well worth it if you're working with this population, you have loved ones who are suffering from Alzheimer's disease. All right, so health triggers. We already know what triggers people to have behaviors. I talked about constipation at the beginning, yeah? Not so fresh? Okay. Heat, cold, pain. If I got a patient who can't talk, doesn't interact very well, and they got a UTI, what do you think is going to happen with that patient when they go pee? DC fire, fuego. Like hot lava. And you wonder why they were cranky this morning. Or where they punched you, or they were punching at you, or they were striking out at you. It could have been when you took them to the bathroom, you smelled amazingly strong urine. This is where our observation skills come in, right? Maybe you saw redness when you did pericare on them. This is specifically for our CNAs. That's reportable. We got to take care of that, right? Because that could be the source of some of the problem, right? They're not getting enough sleep. Their sleep patterns are all disrupted and flipped. I used to work in a long-term care facility as a CNA. Guess what? We had a gathering of the minds around the nurses station. Every jerry chair on the unit was there. And there was a party going on at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hello. Right? So sleep patterns get disrupted. Routines get disrupted. Routine. Remember that word. If we don't have routines, that's a safe place for people who are suffering from this. Routines. Because now it gives them something to kind of trigger those pieces of memory to get connected again. Okay. You got a bad tooth. Anybody here ever had a toothache? Did it crank you out? Did it go away? No. And it just sit there and it was like, and it was in the head. I had one that lasted like 3 weeks. And it finally went away after a while. But it was like, oh my gosh, man. And I think it was TMJ. Like I got hit in the face with a softball when I know that explains it, right? I got hit in the face with a softball way back in the day when I was a CNA, as a matter of fact. I was pitching. So I could feel that pain, and every once in a while and it'll get irritated. And the pain goes in the ear, it goes up to the head, it goes down into the jaw. No, I'm not having a heart attack. But it doesn't go away. It's just background noise. And it just affected me. Like I wanted to, it's like you can't get rid of it. So what do? You're cranky. You can't get rid of the pain. That's how they feel. Imagine not being able to express that. Those are the things we can pay attention to and we can intervene with if we're paying attention, right? Okay, smiling, honoring personal space. Don't talk over someone. You ever have somebody go in to talk to a patient? And this is for the nurses. Go in to talk to a patient and you're doing the static care and the patient's caregiver will talk over the patient. Or you'll be talking to them, or you'll be talking to them, but you're not really paying attention to the patient. Sometimes patients will surprise you. Like they'll act like they don't know what's going on, and all of a sudden they'll say, I'm right here. Body language is hugely important. Smiling is hugely important. Engaging, verbal communication, nonverbal communication, repetition. Sometimes that repetition is just an expression of self-soothing. Mama, 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 mama. You ever wonder why?
Yes.
Go back to safety. My mom was where I was safe. That's all I can remember. And the repetition soothes me. Rocking soothes me. Playing with the laundry helps engage me and soothe me. You guys are smiling because you know, right? Grab the laundry, put it over here. They're smacking people. They stop smacking people, and you're just like this. Right? Where's my mother? I want to go home. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have about 10. I'm gonna buy back 5 minutes if that's all right with you guys. All right, because we did get started late. So I actually have 20 minutes. Yay, go us. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow established this, and every nurse that's in the room here or on the call remembers this from your basic fundamentals of nursing, right? How to take care of patients. We got to know human development, right? We got to know the development cycle. So guess what? He established that there are some foundational things that everybody needs. The physiological needs: food, warmth, rest, and water, right? Safety needs: security and safety, belongingness, being a part of a family, intimate relationships. Esteem needs: prestige and feeling of accomplishment. And then finally, we reach this top that is self-actualization. That simply means that we know who we are, we know what we're doing, we know what we want to do, and we have all of the tools in place to make it happen. What does Alzheimer's do to that patient, to the person, the human being? It starts up here, knocks that right off the top. And then each section of the pyramid gets whacked until finally you're even at the place where you don't even recognize that you need food, that you need water, that you need warmth, and that you need rest. It dismantles us fundamentally as human beings. And it's important that we realize that, because we are now putting the pieces back together on the pyramid. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So responding to challenges. Recognize it's the disease, not the person causing the challenges. Don't take aggression or insults personally. It's okay to take a time out to reset yourself. I talk to kids. I used to teach new dads how to be new dads, teen fathers. I did incarcerated fathers too. And one of the things that we were always seeing coming into the NICU at St. Luke's or the level 2 was PAWS, which was post-opioid syndrome, withdrawal syndrome. And we're seeing shaken baby. 9 out of 10 times, it was young parents who were overwhelmed, who didn't know how to express themselves, didn't know how to not take it out on a kid. So I taught him. The kid in the bassinet, when they're screaming bloody murder and you can't soothe them because they're colicky and you just don't know how to fix it. When you feel that rage coming up inside of you, you put them down. And Sean's looking like, I got a baby coming. I got a baby coming. Put them down.
Put it down, walk away.
That kid can cry their little eyes out, and they'll be like,
That's okay. Walk away.
and it's like, whatever, it's fine.
Just walk away.
It hurts your heart. Better to hurt your heart than break a bone and hurt your baby.
Mhm.
For real?
Mhm.
Okay. So that's the same principle that we give to caregivers who are dealing with these situations. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
We give them alternatives and we let them be okay to give themselves grace to walk away from the situation. But we got family members who just want to argue. I got to win this one. You don't understand. They've been like this forever. She's giggling because she knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? We want to use assertive tones. I don't know about you, but I don't want somebody commanding me. My inner teenager comes out and I say, who are you? Right? Our people are no different. The people we care for, they're no different. Caregiver stress signs. Here's the big one. Mandated reporters. What do we see that could possibly indicate that caregiver is under more stress than is safe for that patient? What are some of the warning signs? Well, they may actually exhibit some of them for you. They've got poor hygiene. They're sarcastic. They're annoyed all the time. They don't even know you and they hate you because you walked in the door and you became their punching bag. First of all, you don't need to be their punching bag. That's for the caregiver. The caregiver does not need to use you. They sign a document when the start of care happens that says the patient's code of conduct. Remember that. You don't have to sit for that. But we do have to understand the dynamics. And we should be trying to figure out why. Okay? They feel unlikable. They feel like it's their fault that this is all happening. They don't feel adequate to take care of their loved one. They feel like they are not doing a good enough job, even though they basically have no life outside of caregiving. Anybody familiar with that?
Mhm.
Yeah. So now we come in, we're a buffer, but we're also an assessor, because sometimes that goes beyond the place where the patient is safe and the caregiver is safe, right? So those are caregiver signs of stress that we're looking at. Physical and emotional abuse. This is the determinations of or the definitions of both. Physical abuse, we already know what that looks like. Bruises that shouldn't be there, hand marks with perfect bruises where you just grab that, they got grabbed. You can only fall down so many times, I'm sorry. And for them, they're probably osteoporosis, they're gonna become a maraca. They're gonna have catastrophic injuries if they're being abused sometimes. Sometimes they do trip and fall. Equilibrium is off. But we don't know that, and we can't judge. All we can do is report what we see. And that's everybody's responsibility, right? So we should still see the warning signs. We should still be cognizant of that, but we are not judges. It's not personal. But we don't have the right to say, okay, well, I'll let somebody else do it. Because in the time frame that you saw it and you do nothing, that patient could die. I don't think that's an over dramatization, do you? No. Neglect. We know what neglect looks like, right? No food in the house, patients unkept, doors wide open, animals running roughshod all over the place. I'm singing the familiar song, aren't I? Right? Not getting the right medical care. Patient's been sick for 2 weeks. He hasn't seen a doctor yet. Don't have the money, don't have the time, don't have transportation. I don't want to hear that. We got social workers. We got social workers. We got resources in the community. We just need to help them understand that there is options, right? But neglect, when we see it, we have to report it. Financial exploitation. I don't get paid for what I do. So I'm gonna give 1 for you and 1, 2, 3 for me. I'm gonna go shopping for you. Oh, and my mom said I can go shopping for my family for the next 2 months. I mean, I'm making a little light of it, but I really, it sucks. Because you start to feel justified in doing things that are dishonoring that person. And I've seen it happen in assisted livings. I've seen it happen in long-term care. I've seen it happen pretty much anywhere where there's a caregiving situation. Just be aware. And it is we are mandated reporters. It has to be reported immediately to your supervisor. Volunteers, you are reporting immediately to Judy or to whoever else. I think Judy's your go-to. And then Judy then takes it to down the chain of command to Tracy, and then it goes to where it needs to go. Okay, for caregivers, same. Immediate supervisor, generate a report, investigation is generated. The report has to be submitted in writing within 24 hours to DPH. DPH now will open an investigation, and there's a whole process that gets put into play. You're not accusing anyone of anything. It is simply to get the facts. But it has to be done, and it has to be done every time. Okay, we're gonna watch this movie to round up. Everybody got your Kleenex? Okay. So this is Gladys Wilson. This is one way of handling the oops. Come on, Gladys, don't tell me that like I can't like. Oh man. Sometimes they block my videos. I'm not sure why. But I do want you to see this because this is really cool. Any questions, comments, concerns about anything so far? Am I talking about anything you haven't heard before? For years. Okay. Oh, come on, what is going on here? I don't have a connection, but I could be part of it. No internet. Okay. There we go.
When people are very old and deteriorated and no one enters their world and they're just sitting there, they will withdraw inward more and more. And their desperate need for connection is all now inside. And if a person is all alone, even if they're very, very deteriorated, there's a longing for this kind of closeness. Mrs. Wilson? Hello. You want me to sit? Can you see me good? Gladys Wilson is a wonderful example of a person who is in the phase of repetitive motion, where people use movements, repetitive movements, because they don't have any more speech or very little speech, but they have human needs that need to be expressed. You're crying. You're crying. You have a tear right here in your face. You have a little pain. You want me to touch you. You're very sad. Can you see me? Is it scary? You afraid? And if this person sits with their eyes closed, rocking back and forth, and maybe there's a tear coming down, there's a need there. Here. There's a little tear that's coming out. You feel it? You feel a little tear? If you gently use touch, and I touched Gladys Wilson for the fingertips right here on the cheek, is where the mother usually touches a child. If you touch an infant there, it looks up, and every cell remembers where it was touched by the mother. And often that person knows, even if they can't say a word at that moment, they won't talk, or they don't want to talk, but there's a communication. And that person is no longer alone. Can you let me in a little bit? You think? Just a little? You think I could be with you and Jesus for a minute? Jesus loves me, yes, I know, for the Bible tells me so. I used music, because when speech is gone, music, especially with Gladys Wilson, it was religious music because there's emotion tied to it and safety tied to it. So I used her old church songs. Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. What I did was, when she moved, I moved with her. And when I was singing, because she didn't sing with me, so I matched the intensity of my voice to the intensity of her movement. And pretty soon, for a split second, we became one person. Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so. So at one point, when she got very quiet and very peaceful, and my voice became very quiet as hers and very peaceful, and my breathing slowed to her breathing, she pulled me to her, and I moved with her. And for her, at that moment, I believe I was a symbol of her mom. Can you open your eyes now? Do you see me? Feel safe and warm? head. Can you sing with me?
Bet you can't clone that one.
He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the mothers and the fathers. He's got the mothers and the fathers in his hands. He's got the mothers and the fathers in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. The breakthrough doesn't happen every time. The person will not always open their eyes and look at you. But if you keep trying and you keep centering yourself and really look at that person and really mirror their movements, maybe not this time, but the next time you come, you'll have a communication. You feel safe. You feel safe? Yeah. With Jesus? Yeah. And me?
So amazing if you are going to you guys have a good opportunity that a lot of us, which is amazing. And we're so glad that you guys are here and part of the team, because that's the component. Stuff like that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle of the business that we do, because we're taking care of the physical needs, we're taking care of the medical needs, we're taking care of some of the social needs of the patient and the family. But you guys can have that one-to-one with them a lot of times. And sometimes they're just sleeping and they're not awake and they're not cognizant and they're not aware. But there are times when you do have that opportunity to be a really important piece of their life. So thank you for what you do. All right. We kind of talked a lot about this already, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. The power of music, I didn't get a chance to share that with you, but I will tell you, this is really kind of cool. And if you want me to, I can actually put this into the link for the invite, and I'll share it with you so you guys can look at it. I gave you a lot of information. I'd like to usually have a 5 or 10 minute period of time, but we're burning daylight. So are there any questions or comments, anything from people that are online right now or people that are here that you'd like clarified, or things that you feel like you'd like to share? Well, if you do, please don't hesitate to reach out. In the invite, everyone, including my volunteers, should still have the opportunity now, after I made some adjustments to the exam and to the evaluation. You should be able to access it in forms because the permissions are set. The only thing that's a little different now is that make sure you're reading carefully through it, because there's places to put your name on both. Because because of the permissions, it sends it out anonymously. So I have to know who's doing what so I can grade you and make sure you pass and get your certificate. So just make sure you're reading through it carefully, put your names in it where it says to put your names in it. And then the information for the nurses, this is for all the nurses, by the way, and NPs as well. The medications I put in there are the medications that we predominantly see being used to treat Alzheimer's right now. And they fit into those categories that we discussed earlier. There's a lot of medications that are being trialed now. There are IV infusions, gene therapies, and they're attacking different levels of need for this disease process. In fact, there's some use of Keppra in patients who have early onset, and it helps to kind of arrest the development of, or keep their cognition at a higher level. There's been studies that have shown that that's been really effective. So some of the anti-seizure medications, although that's problematic, if you've got a patient who has Lewy body, you're probably not going to apply it now. But some fascinating stuff going on. And I hope you guys, this is valuable for you. All right, guys, take care. Thank you so much for coming. Again, if you have any questions or comments you'd like to chat about, I'll be here for a few minutes afterwards. We can hang out. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Don't forget to fill out the exam and the evaluation, please, folks. It should be over there somewhere. Yeah. Thank you.
We're gonna do a paper.
You accepted the invitation. Saw that you accepted.
Yeah, I did that. I can try.
You can do it on my computer.
Okay. We left town.
That was enough torture for one day.
Frustrating for you, sure. Like if you,
I'm trying things a little bit differently now. I'm simply thinking. I'm
I
trying.
did the testing.
Mhm.
Do I have to redo it? Because you sent me the thing that the score to it.
No, you shouldn't have to if you already did it.
Okay.
If you did it this time, you did it this time, right?
I did it the last time I was supposed to come.
Yeah, you got to do it this time.
Did you do it?
Yeah. Thank you. And the evaluation.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. I'm doing things a little bit differently now,
Mhm.
where I'm making it available online because what it does is I can put the correction score in there. So Forms lets me put in what the correct answers are. So when people are actually, it just saves me time because I remember being, as a teacher, you're just sitting there for hours doing that. And if I can make it more efficient, I do.
well, let me, I'm trying to think.
I'm going to show you how to. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Okay.
Actually, hi Val. Lynn, thanks you guys. I'm gonna cut you off now. Not trying to. Are you guys have any questions?
Yeah, are you going to be emailing that test to us, or is it in the attachments that you sent?
It's in the attachment. It's that whole body of that invitation that showed up in your calendar. When you guys got that initial invitation, it's in the body of the email. There's two links. There's one for the exam and there's one for the evaluation.
Okay.
Okay? If you have any trouble, just give me a shout.
All right. Thanks.
Take care. Nice seeing you, Lynn. Leah, thank you.